Most people assume the difference between rich and poor is obvious. They imagine wealth is simply the result of a bigger paycheck. If someone is wealthy, they must earn more. And if someone struggles financially, they must earn less. It sounds reasonable. But if you pay attention to the real world for a moment, something interesting starts to appear. There are people earning impressive salaries who still feel constantly stressed about money. Their income looks good on paper, but their bank account never seems to breathe. At the same time, there are people with very ordinary incomes who seem surprisingly stable. Their financial life isn't luxurious, but it feels calm, predictable. So what's actually going on? Because if income were the only factor, those two realities wouldn't exist. The truth is that wealth rarely begins with income alone. It begins with decisions. Small decisions that happen quietly in everyday life. Decisions that feel harmless in the moment, but slowly shape the direction money moves over time. And when you start observing closely, you'll notice that rich and poor people often make very different choices with the same money. Not dramatic choices, just a handful of habits repeated again and again. Over years, those habits quietly pull financial lives in completely different directions. The first decision that often separates rich and poor happens the moment income increases. Imagine two people receiving the exact same raise at work. Both worked hard, both earned it. But what happens next begins to change their financial future. For many people, a raise feels like permission for life to upgrade. A slightly nicer apartment, a newer car, more dinners out, a lifestyle that finally matches the effort they've been putting into their job. None of these decisions feel irresponsible. In fact, they feel deserved. After all, if your income improves, shouldn't your life improve too? But people who slowly build wealth tend to respond differently. Instead of letting their lifestyle rise at the same speed as their income, they create a small gap. Part of the raise improves their life, but another part quietly disappears into savings or investments. The lifestyle grows, just more slowly than the income. And that small gap becomes incredibly powerful. Because over time, that gap becomes the place where wealth begins. The second decision appears in how people think about spending itself. For many people, spending is simply the reward for working hard. You work long hours, you deal with stress, you earn money. So naturally, spending becomes the way you enjoy the result, and there's nothing wrong with that. But wealthy individuals tend to ask a slightly different question before spending. They quietly wonder whether a purchase will improve their life temporarily or permanently. Temporary improvements are easy to recognize. A more expensive phone, a newer car, a lifestyle that feels impressive for a while. But permanent improvements look different. Education that increases earning potential, skills that open new opportunities, assets that continue producing value long after the money is spent. The difference isn't about avoiding enjoyment, it's about recognizing that some spending disappears quickly, while other spending quietly builds the future. The third decision often shows up in how people treat debt. Debt itself isn't always the problem. The problem is how casually it can become part of daily life. Credit cards make it easy to smooth over short-term expenses. Car loans make upgrades feel manageable. Monthly payments allow purchases to stretch across time. And because the payments seem small each month, the long-term cost becomes almost invisible. But over time, debt changes the direction money flows. Instead of money-building savings or investments, it quietly moves toward interest payments. And interest has a strange effect. It slowly transfers money away from the person earning it. People who build wealth tend to approach debt with more caution. Not because they avoid it completely, but because they understand how easily it can control future income. Every payment tied to the past reduces flexibility in the future. The fourth decision appears in something people rarely think about directly: time. Many financial choices look harmless at the beginning. A little extra spending today doesn't seem important. Saving a small amount doesn't seem powerful either. But time quietly changes both of those decisions. When someone consistently saves even modest amounts and invests them over many years, something powerful begins to happen. Growth starts building on top of growth. This is the idea behind compound growth. At first, it feels slow. The numbers move gradually, but eventually, the growth begins accelerating because the money is no longer just growing from new contributions. It's growing from its own previous growth. This is why people who build wealth often focus less on dramatic gains and more on starting early, because time multiplies consistent habits. The fifth decision shows up in how people respond to lifestyle pressure. Modern life quietly encourages spending at every stage. New job, better apartment, promotion, nicer car. Each step seems like the natural next level. But when lifestyle expands as fast as income, something important disappears. Breathing room. And that breathing room is where financial security begins. It's where savings grow. It's where investments begin quietly compounding in the background. It's where unexpected problems stop feeling like financial emergencies. People who slowly build wealth tend to protect this space. They allow their lifestyle to grow, but not as quickly as their income. That small difference creates a margin. And over time, that margin becomes freedom. When you step back and look at all these decisions together, something interesting becomes clear. The difference between rich and poor rarely comes from one dramatic moment. It comes from a pattern. Small choices about raises, small decisions about spending, small habits around debt, saving, and time. Each decision feels ordinary on its own, but over years, those habits quietly guide money in very different directions. One path gradually increases comfort today, but limits flexibility tomorrow. The other path moves more slowly at first, but quietly builds stability. And that stability becomes one of the most valuable forms of wealth. Not luxury, not status, but the ability to make life decisions without constant financial pressure. Interestingly, some of the most powerful examples of this mindset don't come from high-income earners at all. In the next video, we'll look at the story of someone whose job most people would never associate with wealth, a janitor who quietly built a fortune simply by understanding these decisions over time.